right, I just want to go over this quiz. What are we doing here? We're doing Chapter 11, the quiz. This Chapter 11, what's it on? What is Chapter 11? Chapter 11 is measuring a nation's production and income. So basically, how are we doing overall? Are we doing well? Are we doing bad? What should we do to change it? If we're doing bad, what should we do? Tonight is the Republican debate. They're going to talk about the economy tonight. It's Wednesday today, so it might be an interesting debate for you. I doubt if I'll watch it. I'll probably read it. I'll read the transcripts tomorrow. Well, let me take a look at this quiz. If you look at the homeworks, you can do as many times as you want. And again, the answers are right in the textbook for this stuff. It's a pretty straightforward chapter. Again, looking at GDP, GNP, what goes into it. Again, just some of the basic facts we need to know, because what we want to talk about in macroeconomics, if the economy is not doing so well, and again, wages could be a lot better than they are right now. Income inequality is a problem right now. Should the government be involved in trying to fix it? And how should they do it? So this is just a chapter that just explains some of the things with measuring GDP, and is there something more important than GDP in measuring an economy? So the first one, what part of the government spending is excluded from GDP? What we don't count as part of our, basically our gross domestic product? Education, national defense, purchase of police cars, now that all goes into GDP actually, but transfer payments, and if you look in the textbook, transfer payments are like payments to Social Security payments for retired people or people on disability, welfare payments, payments for interest on the debt. That's just called transfer payments, and they're not included in GDP. It's the biggest part of the federal budget, is these transfer payments, which cannot be really changed. Let me go next. A trade deficit occurs when our exports, this is too easy of a question. A trade deficit occurs when we basically have more imports than exports. So when our exports are less than our imports, right? It's like a grade school question. Anyway, so easy. What's the largest component of national income? Again, what people take in as income, of course, and this is very logical in a way, it's compensation, right? That you get in your wages and benefits. The other one, rental income, net interest. These are, rich people get these rental incomes, net interest, corporate profits, but still, the largest component of national income is compensation, because there's, 300 million people in this country. Half of those have a job, and they get a paycheck. That's the biggest part of national income. To compute real GDP, okay, there's real and nominal GDP, and the difference between the two, and you have to know this will be on the final. Real GDP takes inflation into account. So if inflation is going up a lot and the GDP is going up a lot, it doesn't really tell us the story. We have to look at the basically real GDP, measuring inflation to see what's going on. So to compute the real GDP, it is necessary to hold prices constant, and that is true, right? This may be worded when you take the test. If it's nominal GDP, they don't hold prices constant. Nominal and real. Look at the textbook. That's another easy one. The blank marks the date that ends a recession and output starts to increase again, and this is the trough. But for conservative economists like Mr. Hayek, it's hard. They would say it's very difficult for the government to understand when we're in a trough, or when we're rising, or if we're going down. It's just very difficult to tell exactly where you are at one time. So government should not get involved in trying to stimulate the economy, because if they stimulate an economy that's already starting to boom, it may cause inflation, is what they would say. Next question, illegal activities. And this is about 15% of our GDP is illegal or under the table. But under the table activities, like if you're a babysitter, right? You don't declare that income to the government. But illegal activities are not computed as part of the GDP because they are not reported, right? No one reports if you're a drug dealer how much money you made last year. You don't pay taxes on that. And for some countries, especially in the developing world, it can be a large percentage of the GDP. All right, next question. Microeconomists, and again, if you take this test, it may say macroeconomists, but microeconomists are primarily interested in incomes of a particular individual and production of a particular firm. Yeah, that is true. That's what microeconomists do. Macroeconomists tend to look at the whole or the aggregate, is a term we love to use. So this is true. Micro are interested in individual and individual companies. Next question, the last question, only 8 things here. Which of the following is not included in GDP? Strawberries, still, of course they are. Sales of new cars, of course they are. Economics textbook, oh, that's just a taunting question. Yeah, of course that is. Is leisure time. And this gets to the point is, does GDP really measure how well we're doing as a society? Does it measure happiness? And a lot of economists have started measuring happiness. We may be rich, but are we happy? And then generally the case is, if you are wealthier, you tend to be happier and live longer, was in today's paper. But we don't measure leisure time. I mean, Americans don't take vacations as much as the rest of the developing world. We're a little crazy. Let me submit my quiz. What did I get? I got 100%. So just watch out with the wording on yours. Again, follow along, take your time, have the textbook open when you do it. Again, for this chapter, there's a lot of terms you should use in your research paper. You should be working on your research paper, on the topic for your research paper. So this thing is assigned, when is this thing assigned? November 2nd, right? All right. So, any questions? Give me a shout. I'll probably do some recording on the research paper in the next couple of days too and post it. How do I get out of here? I'm not used to a Mac at all. Let me quit my Safari and then I can go into my and end this thing.